Parisian monument gets a security upgrade. Paris plans to build a glass wall around the Eiffel Tower that will protect the French capital's most famous landmark without spoiling the view for visitors. Security at the Eiffel Tower will be strengthened with the construction of an 8-foot-high bulletproof glass wall. The perimeter of the wall includes the base of the tower and 2 adjacent ponds. Entrances from 2 nearby streets will be closed, and access points will be moved to the tower's 2 gardens. All visitors must clear security checkpoints before entering the tower. French authorities believe the increased security measures are necessary because the Eiffel Tower is a major target for terrorists. YouTube's ad policies are killing creators, but you can help. Be a hero at patreon.com/TomoNews. Here's how TomoNews covered the Paris terror attacks of November 2015.
Video of BRAHIM ABDESLAM suicide bomb attack in restaurant surfaces. New CCTV video footage shows the split-second suicide bomber BRAHIM ABDESLAM, the older brother of Paris terror suspect Salah Abdeslam, blows himself to smithereens. On November 13th, BRAHIM ABDESLAM was seen exiting a car just outside the Comptoir Voltaire restaurant. Once inside, Abdeslam walks toward an area where he is surrounded by dining patrons. Unbeknownst to them, Abdeslam has a self-detonating bomb strapped to himself, and he's about to set it off. The terrorist takes one last moment to himself, puts his head down, and unleashes carnage upon the restaurant. As you can see in this footage, it all happens very quickly. Abdeslam is there 1 second and gone the next in a puff of smoke. Though it appeared to be a devastating explosion, luckily none of the patrons or restaurant staff perished in the blast. All escaped with relatively minor injuries, leaving the bomber himself as the only casualty in this particular terror attack.
80 people killed at BATACLAN concert hall during Paris attacks. A series of deadly attacks occurred in Paris on Friday night, leaving at least 120 victims dead. At the BATACLAN concert hall, a sold-out show with 1,500 spectators turned into what one witness described as a bloodbath on Friday night. Towards the end of the concert, gunmen entered the concert hall and opened fire. The attack reportedly lasted between 10 and 15 minutes, and 80 victims were killed. More than 100 people were taken hostage during the attack before they were rescued by police. Security forces entered the building just after midnight, and 4 gunmen were killed. 3 of them were wearing explosive belts. Rescue workers responded to the crises, and around 200 people were injured in the attacks across Paris. Attacks also took place around the same time on Friday night at the Stade de France and several restaurants, including Le Petit Cambodge, where at least 14 people were killed. There were attacks on 5 locations across Paris, and a total of 8 attackers were killed, including suicide bombers. 1,500 military personnel were sent out in response to the attacks.
South African woman played dead for an hour after Bataclan massacre. This is the South African woman whose story of survival during the Paris massacres, along with this image of her bloodstained shirt, has gone viral. She's 22-year-old Isabel Bowdery of Cape Town and was with her boyfriend at the Bataclan Music Hall on Friday night. In a Facebook post read by tens of thousands, Bowdery writes that she naively believed it was all part of the show before realizing it was a terrorist massacre. Shocked and alone, she writes, I pretended to be dead for over an hour, lying among people who could see their loved ones motionless, holding my breath, trying not to move or cry. Isabel says a complete stranger tried to reassure her as she whimpered in terror, with the man even covering her head in what she believes was an attempt to save her life. After she got out of the theater, she thought she recognized her boyfriend, but it turned out to be a stranger. The man, however, she says, stayed with her for 45 minutes to console her, despite being alone and frightened himself. Isabel writes that as she waited for her 22 years on Earth to end, she envisioned every face she had ever loved and whispered to them over and over, I love you. Her boyfriend Amore survived, but writing about the near 100 souls killed in the concert hall massacre, Isabel says she felt privileged to be there for their last breaths. I promise that their last thoughts were not on the animals who caused all of this, she writes. It was thinking of the people they loved. Say no to safe spaces on YouTube. Support TomoNews at patreon.com/TomoNews.
Paris suicide bomb vests contained volatile explosives. Unlike other bombings in which attackers used explosives carried in backpacks, Last week's deadly attacks on the French capital saw jihadists with bomb vests, something normally associated with terror attacks in North Africa and the Middle East. At least one of those implicated in Friday's Paris terror attacks attempted to enter the Stade de France, but was stopped when guards discovered him wearing a vest during a pat-down. The vests appeared to contain TATP, triacetone triperoxide, an unstable explosive made easily using household products, as well as nails to act as shrapnel, a battery, and a detonator. All 7 suicide bombers wore identical explosive vests. Authorities believe an explosive specialist who came from or trained in a jihadist hotspot may have made the vests in France or elsewhere in Europe and could still be in the region. Since making the vest requires training, any bomb maker would be considered a valuable asset, and the person responsible was not likely among the attackers. TATP, nicknamed the Mother of Satan due to its volatility, has been the explosive of choice among terrorists in recent years, and was used in the 2005 London Underground bombings that killed 52 people.